Good evening, televiewers. Happy New Week. We are glad to have you again in front of your screens this evening to follow what we have in store for you. We are going to be looking at the UN resolution 2565 that calls for a ceasefire in all conflict areas across the globe to permit the free flow of vaccines to the population living within conflict areas. Our focus is Cameroon, the southwest and northwest regions to be precise, to find out whether the call for a ceasefire is going to be respected, even as we have information that there was ongoing fighting today in Kumbu between the separatist fighters and the military of Cameroon. We also are going to be looking at the ongoing conflicts amongst members of parliament in Cameroon, especially concerning Honorable Jean-Michel Nitcheu, who is blasting the decision by some MPs who wrote to congressmen and women of the United States of America for meddling into issues that are concerning Cameroon. According to Cameroonian MPs, the U.S. congressmen and women should rather look for ways to stop persons resident in their country causing pains in Cameroon, and that they should focus on not providing a safe havens for those they consider troublemakers to Cameroon. We are going to be discussing this with our panelists who already are in the house, three of them. Prince Joel Mukage is in the house with us and is going to be discussing on these two topics. We're glad to have you with us.
Good evening to you, Kum Leonard. Good evening to my co-panelists. Good evening to those watching in the northwest and the southwest. Special greetings to the peace-loving people of Mukage subdivision, to Dr. Fokalisus Gentry, and to Honorable Ngala Gerard.
We also in the company of Tamfu Jones. He is the Secretary General of the MODECNA party. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Kum. It's a pleasure to be here today, and good evening to Cameroonians. Good evening to fellow panelists. I think Cameroon has reached another level of democracy, which we will be discussing this night, and I will pray that what we will discuss here today will go a long way to educate Cameroonians.
We are also in the company of Christian Njock. He is a militant of the CPRN, a movement led by Honorable Cabral Libi. He is in the studio with us. Bonsoir et bienvenue.
Bonsoir Luna, bonsoir à mes co-panélistes et bonsoir à tous vos nombreux téléspectateurs. Tout le plaisir le mien de venir ici en ce jour de début de mois de mars, un mois fondamental où les parlementaires doivent rentrer effectivement au Parlement et où on espère que beaucoup de choses vont se discuter. Et c'est un moment apparemment carrefour d'après ce qui se prépare et beaucoup de lois vont être adoptées au Parlement. On espère bel et bien que ça mettra désormais fin à la crise anglophone.
Okay, I will start with UN Security Council Resolution 2565 for a ceasefire in conflict zones to allow the delivery of vaccines to the population living in these areas. Now, do you think this call by the United Nations is going to receive a favorable response from the warring factions in Cameroon?
I don't think so, Ms. Aliu. I don't think that is going to get a favorable call because, first of all, the vaccines we're talking about is a vaccine that has received a lot of controversies. We've had students come out of classes because they were told that vaccines were to be administered. We've had population react because they were told that vaccines were coming. So the vaccine, first of all, that has proven to be very controversial, to an extent, something that is really going to cause these warring factions to drop their arms, given that, like I said before now, we've had calls from the US Senate, we have calls even from those within, we've had calls from those without, from the clergy, even from women. We've had women come out and protest and say, okay, we've had enough, you've killed our children, enough women have been raped, we think it's time for you to drop weapons, come out of the bushes, so we can talk frankly and see how to come out of the quagmire. We've also had members of government. We've also had so many things. If you look at since 2016 till now, Ms. Ali, we're almost 5 years into the crisis. Much has been done to ensure that the factions out there drop weapons. That is proving unworkable. So I don't think that it is the vaccine or the call from the U.S. Security Council, like you said, that is going to play a major role. Take note that Cameroonians, many are still very skeptical, especially those in the northwest and southwest region. A majority are very skeptical about the COVID-19. But it is real because every day we see the cases that are coming up every day. So I think that it's not going to be a call that will have record a positive result, because COVID-19 is a list of the problems that the people in the northwest and southwest region have.
Okay. Do you think either the separatists or the government are going to down their guns and stop them from smoking because of this UN resolution 2565?
Yeah, the question I've been asking myself, why now?
No, because of COVID-19.
Yes. In Cameroon, people who have died of COVID-19 are not up to 1,000. Am I right? But we have had over 3,000 deaths when it comes to the war in the northwest and the southwest. So you cannot tell us that we should pay more attention, that people should drop their weapons because of COVID-19. Meanwhile, the people have been fighting, hoping and waiting, looking up to you as the UN to come in and see how you will solve the problem. And all you wait for, it is because your interest is at stake that you think that you will come and impose a ceasefire. After all, now it's not the first time the UN is talking about a ceasefire in Cameroon. No, it is not the first, and it might not be the last. Given that the first time they called for a ceasefire, called for the government to see into what they will do to make sure that the crisis comes to an end. The government did nothing. The other guys who are fighting did nothing. Nothing was done. And the UN itself did nothing. It shows that the UN is powerless, because if you have powers, when you give instructions and the person doesn't follow the instructions, there are sanctions that follow. But the instructions were not followed, they were not respected, and sanctions didn't follow. One makes you think that it is at this point in time that you will give instructions and people will respect those instructions. Because they know that since you never punish when you give instructions, nobody will be ready to respect. And now we are talking about COVID-19, as Prince Joel earlier said, that is coming with a lot of controversies. People find it difficult to believe that it's COVID-19. I remember I went to Bamenda, I was putting on my face mask. Somebody told me that you have come with that thing from Douala. Means that they believe that in Bamenda, it is not true. And given that we have had cases whereby people have been tempted that they died of COVID-19, and they were buried in very funny circumstances that gave so much doubt to the local man. And this makes it difficult for people to believe, no matter the hike or in the numbers of the COVID-19 cases, people still find it difficult. And the game that the government is playing around the COVID-19 pandemic makes it more difficult for the local man to believe, given that the other time they said schools should shut down because of the COVID-19. Before you know it, they open bars. People start drinking and dancing. Before you know it, the people organize birthday parties. Go there, sit and drink and eat, and nobody says anything. Before you know it, you see concerts are being organized in Kumba. People go there and stand without face mask. And then you come again and tell us that COVID-19, that the UN said, and you think that Cameroonians will respect? I don't think so. Given that we have the warring parties are both extremists. The government says they will not give in to for the terrorists. The embassy said the government are the terrorists and that they will not give in for them. At the end of the day, the population is suffering in the middle. As we speak, those people who say that they want the war to come to an end so that the vaccine can go through the population. I have received emergency calls from Banga Bakundu, where people are still calling me from the bushes. ITPs who have run from their homes and they are inside the bushes. So even if the vaccines are they going to take the vaccines to Banga Bakundu in the cities, or to those who are already in the bushes who are not even identified?
Yeah, but is that not the reason for the call for a ceasefire? Because it is, as it is very difficult to access such areas.
Very true. It is a reason for the call for the ceasefire. But if the UN is not selfish, they should have looked into solving this problem, because when you look critically, you realize that the Anglophone problem has been, this crisis we are facing, has been the least that the UN and the international community have paid attention to. We have crises that were not that did not reach up to this magnitude, but that they gave too much attention to. But this one, there was some sort of laxity in the looking at into this crisis. And today, because of the COVID-19, because their interest is at stake, they think that they can come through the call for ceasefire. I think only a fool would do the same thing year in and year out and expect a different result. Because if before you had called for a ceasefire and nothing, there was no ceasefire, and today you are still calling for the same ceasefire when you had not taken some measures after the call for ceasefire was not respected by
the situation, the COVID situation is imposing the need for this extra measure to be taken. But also, let Christian Njock, est-ce que vous avez l'impression que les deux parties vont finalement déposer les armes parce que les Nations Unies ont demandé qu'on cesse les hostilités?
Bien, je voudrais déjà convoquer l'histoire. Monsieur Kum dit effectivement que le Cameroun est un enfant des Nations Unies.
Okay.
Voyez-vous? Donc depuis 45, 48 à 60, si on veut me remonter à 1914 ou à 1919, notamment le 4 mars, où c'est les Nations Unies qui ont toujours piloté la chose ici. Maintenant, on va convoquer la question d'impact. Est-ce qu'à date, les Nations Unies contrôlent effectivement les différentes franges qu'il y a sur le terrain? Si les Nations Unies peuvent effectivement communiquer, parce que les Nations Unies, c'est qui? C'est les États. Voyez-vous, c'est l'ensemble des États. Au moins, on peut identifier un acteur média qui est l'État. L'État central, c'est l'État camerounais. Est-ce que l'État camerounais va se soumettre, n'est-ce pas, au diktat des Nations Unies qui s'impose à lui parce qu'il est partie prenante au traité, n'est-ce pas, de Rome? Est-ce que alors, effectivement, les populations non identifiées, je veux dire les groupes non identifiables, ce qu'on appelle le groupe de bandits, entre guillemets, qu'on ne connaît pas qui est qui, vont-ils lâcher les armes? C'est qui? Le message arrive à qui? On s'adresse à qui? Parce que jusqu'ici aussi, on a ce problème. Quel est l'acteur identifiant? Parce que si on veut bien voir la chose jusqu'ici, il y a plusieurs factions. Que ce soit la faction de Ebenezer Akwanga, que ce soit la faction de Marc Barretta, que ce soit la faction de Chouayaba, ainsi de suite. Et on a des individus qui sont visiblement ailleurs, qui ne contrôlent pas l'action sur le terrain. Est-ce qu'ils ont le courage de faire un peu comme on a vu Mancho Bibixi et Ngalim Félix appeler effectivement le retour à l'école? Et nous avons effectivement vu que l'école a repris un peu de ce côté-là comparativement aux années précédente. Cette année, cette rentrée académique, quand même, les choses ont globalement changé. Maintenant, est-ce que ces acteurs-là, moi j'interroge, est-ce qu'ils ont effectivement le poids qui va avec? Non. Et je crois aussi que les Nations Unies, s'ils veulent effectivement parler, devaient donner un délai. Devaient donner des délais à ces autres gens, parce qu'eux, ils ont la force de pouvoir maîtriser ces autres gars qui gèrent les factions, c'est-à-dire les Bénézés et autres, qui sont en dehors du Cameroun, qui sont protégés par eux, par le droit des Nations Unies. Ça, il faut le dire, parce que ces gens sont protégés par les Nations Unies. Parce qu'en réalité, la suite, on va revenir sur ça, sur la lettre des parlementaires tout à l'heure, parce que cela devrait être depuis extradé en République du Cameroun.
Okay. Okay. Dr. Micheal Ndimancho is in the house with us. Good evening and welcome. And your first take on this call by the United Nations Security Council for hostilities to end within the warring factions in the southwest and northwest regions, so that they can give access to the hinterlands for the free distribution of vaccines to the population. Is it possible? Is it feasible?
Yes, I think it is, and I love the call because I read that call. I read that letter of the UN senators and
UN Security Council.
UN Security Council for the call for the ceasefire in Cameroon.
Not only in Cameroon, all conflict areas in the world, but focus for our discussion is...
Exactly, in Cameroon in particular, that which concerns us in Cameroon. I think that the UN Security Council has shifted from that kind of quiet diplomacy now to what we call la diplomatie du carrefour. Yes, they have shifted from it because there was a time where they kept on hiding the ills in most of these countries. You know, they went into a kind of blanket diplomacy that they didn't want to expose. But the fact that now Cameroon is being tailored and being actually put on a kind of pedestals as a victim or to humiliate Cameroon in one way or the other, let me say it that way, is a fact that the Security Council is actually out for something. But I'm worried, particularly I'm worried, just as the Security Council itself is worried, that at one moment we just hear them saying they are disturbed or they feel highly concerned and that no concrete action is being taken. But then it is important for us to be able to understand that at this particular point in time, that the Security Council has a lot of things in hand. Because the fact that they cannot take actually a physical action doesn't mean that they don't want to take an action. It is because there are a lot of troubles in the world more than the Security Council itself can handle. But by the fact that they are talking against the issues that are happening in Cameroon is already an important thing for us to note, that the world is watching Cameroon, and it is not good for Cameroon.
Yeah, but it's not only about Cameroon. They are talking about all conflict areas in the world because the issue is not because of the war, but to go and distribute their vaccinations.
Well, maybe we may look at it in that perspective, that it is like clearing the way for them to come and distribute the vaccination. But if that is the fact, and they are trying to expose the ills of the countries in the world, it is still a good thing. Like you see the way, the way they lambast Cameroon and they tell Cameroon, enough is enough. A lot of people are suffering in Cameroon. Even the splinter groups, you find they are committing actions on schools and whatsoever, and they are telling people, in the 21st century, this is not the time that you are supposed to stop schools from going, even if they are coming to distribute their vaccines. We have heard about other countries where there are riots, people are rioting, they want to take vaccines in Africa. But then, the fact that we know that the Security Council is concerned about the issue that is happening in North and South issue and the Boko Haram, it is already important for us. The vaccines will come. Nobody will be forced to take the vaccine. But the issue is that those who are traveling and going around the world, they may impose the vaccine because before you go to the airport and pass, you have to take the vaccine. But there are no majority of Cameroons who don't even dream of traveling tomorrow. They don't dream of traveling. Will you not come and force them to take the vaccine? Even with the face masks that just simple face masks that we have asked people to put on. You know that there are a lot of people who are finding it difficult to put the face mask. The government has tried all that they can. The people are not responding to. And I don't think that the UN Security Council will come and force people. I heard somebody was telling me yesterday that if you accept to take the vaccines, they give you 10,000 francs. Means that they are begging people to take the vaccines. But I don't think that, the vaccines for coronavirus is our kind of a primordial or kind of priority in Cameroon, that we should think that we must take it. We have malaria that kills more than that. We have other illnesses that kill more than that. I don't think that is the UN Security Council that will come and impose us the vaccine because they have talked about the issue of the crisis in Cameroon, and then they'll frighten about the vaccines. They will not frighten us. They are only telling us that it is good for us to take. But then, I think that they should look at other countries in Europe that are more in need of this vaccine more than Cameroon. There are countries in Europe, there are countries in the USA, in Europe and America, they are more in need of this vaccine. Why Africa? Why Cameroon in particular? I think that we should be able to ask ourselves questions and educate our people about the issues. Because I think that people need education, and we should know that if it is just malaria, we cannot take on malaria. I think that is not coronavirus that we're going to actually prevent.
Okay, good evening to you, Julius Chofo, and to you, Ndip Tambe Ebot, and Gilbertu Salo, Favor Desmond, Triple Shalomine, and to you, my brother Ali, watching us from the United States of America. The question many persons are asking is that our lives, he raised that already, lives are being taken every day. As we speak, almost every day people are dying. These lives are less important than the vaccine, or the United Nations is trying to be proactive, because if we do not vaccinate people and save lives, the casualties from the war plus the virus may be alarming.
Mr. Liu, it's somehow it's very true that the Security Council is not looking at Cameroon; it's looking at all warring countries. But I want to believe that the war in all countries, like in Cameroon, has taken more souls than the COVID-19.
Yeah, so why did they not impose the ceasefire?
That's why, Micheal, I'm coming. I feel that they feel that the war is already taking souls. COVID-19, on the other hand, is also taking souls. And that if something is not done, it's going to be two things that will be killing individuals at the same time. But now my problem with most of these calls is how far they can go. This is just one of the so many calls that have been coming up. It's not the first. It's not the second. We've had calls all over calling for a ceasefire. But the question that we've always asked ourselves is, why let people die in their numbers before you talk about a ceasefire? Because if you look even at the communication strategy, my brother Tamfu put it late before now. On the 30th of April, when the government of Cameroon said, okay, lives can start all over, where they said, okay, schools should start. Before now, Micheal, for you to go to Southwest, for instance, it will take one person in front, two behind. The fare moved from the normal 1,150 to 2,500 francs. Taxi drivers were avoiding, because by then there was this call that came from the government that, okay, COVID-19 is real. People were afraid of it and people were taking all precautions. Even churches had to reduce. I remember that even the normal, the Catholic, the Presbyterian, and the Baptist, and other denominations, they took measures. For instance, the Presbyterian, they used to go, they had shifts, even the Catholics. But now, progressively on the 30th of April, the government said, okay, life can resume as normal. People were going into bars. You go to Marché Central, for instance, look at how many thousands of people are in there without face masks, without nothing, they greet. Before now, people in every small spot, Micheal, you could see a small bucket, where before you go in, they say, wash your hands, do this, do that. But now, the impression government gave Cameroonians is that, okay, the moment where the COVID was really hard is maybe over, you can start your life all over.
They organize a chant.
Cameroon just organized a chant, and we saw 15 countries plus the host country 16, and life was but normal.
And we saw the FIFA's president.
Life was but normal. So, everything was but normal. But I feel that the call by the Security Council, they have their objective. But I feel that, Micheal, there is Cameroon, the souls are so many. A lot of internally persons. I believe that we should go beyond the calls. When you say you've called people to drop their arms, is this the first call? No. So many calls have come in, but yet people still keep dying every day. People, the wars, the guns are still ongoing. I think that we should be talking today about a decision that is there to sanction any person who is still carrying arms, not about a call. Because a call is just like, Tamfu, if you do this, it's like a child telling the daughter or the son that if you do this, I will punish you. But I believe that where we are today, we have gone past punishment. We should rather be talking about sanction. Because the individuals who took up arms, a majority of them, they've wasted a lot of souls. There are people whom in 2016 said, okay, because of the crisis, let us stay at home. Like Reverend was saying here the other day, there was this impression that came up that, okay, if you guys don't go to school for this year, UNESCO will come in and life will start all over. There are guys who stopped school in 2016 and only took maybe in 2017 or 2018. You agree with me, Mr. Leo, that a year lost in education is so much. So I believe that the Security Council is a very strong force. Yes, we know. We know that so far as the security in the world is concerned, the UN Security Force or the Security Council has a vital role to play. But I think in the case of Cameroon, Mr. Leonard, we have gone past words. We should talk sanctions. There is a time where I remember there was a communique signed by the Minister of Territorial Administration calling on the local administrators, DOs, SDOs, and governors, where there was something that for you to carry guns, even as hunters, that for you to carry a gun, you needed to take that gun to the nearest police post and identify. It has died down. People carry guns and civilians keep dying every day. So I feel that we should move from words to actions. And that actions will only mean sanctions, not calls.
Okay, Tamfu Jones, he is raising very peculiar aspects there about the enforceability of this call or resolution for a ceasefire. Does it suffice to say, please, down your guns when you have no capacity, no will, no clear instruments that imposes on those warring factions to drop their weapons?
You see, if we sit here and we talk, is to educate Cameroonians and those who are watching us around the world. You remember that at the early stage of this crisis, what we're facing in the north and the south in Cameroon, the guys who wanted division were carrying out their activities, their actions, calling on the international community. Because it is so sad, which is still real, it is sad but real, that I went to Bamenda and there were people being killed. So I asked a person living in Bamenda, how do you people feel when people are killed like this? The answer shook me. The person told me that it's for the international community to understand that this thing is serious. That's the sad reality on ground. But upon all this, the international community played a blind eye on the killings. And today, out of a sudden, Mr. Atanganji, who is the territorial minister, the Minister of Territorial Administration in Cameroon, says people continue dropping their guns and they're being taken to the DDR centers, which means that at a certain degree, we can accept that guns are being dropped by one of the warring parties. So, and that is not in respect or response to the call of the UN or any international body. That is being done maybe through the effort of the government or some unseen forces, but the UN call and the calls of the other members of the international community has never hit any positive reaction from the warring parties. So I will end by still saying that all this is a game of interest. It's a game of interest. It is true that there was in the different parts of the world, but that of Cameroon is not the same, because the one which faces Cameroon is what they're asking is different from what is being asked elsewhere. What is done in the war that is being faced by Cameroon can easily be solved by this international community, but they played a blind eye. And today, because they want their vaccines to go through, this is a vaccine that in the West is being condemned. I saw people manifesting today, I saw videos on social media where people are manifesting that the ingredients of the vaccine are deadly. Are they not in somehow trying to bring this vaccine and use people like their guinea pigs to test in these war zones, given that already people are dying in these war zones? It means that life in these war zones are not important than maybe using the war zones to test the vaccines. Everything will be equal, because people are already dying there. So if people should take the vaccines and die, they may even relate it to the war. So I think that their call for their vaccine to penetrate will not work. It will not work, because none of the parties will accept it, because the voices in the bushes, are they living there with vaccines? No, they don't even have paracetamol. You want to come and give them vaccine for coronavirus when they are on, you have not been able to give them vaccine for coronavirus. Children have not been in school for 4 years. Nobody said anything and backed his or her statement. But unfortunately, today we see people, because of their vaccine. I keep saying that this vaccine and this coronavirus has not taken lives in Cameroon in particular the way the war in the north and south has taken lives. So if somebody is coming with something other than that, thinking that you are coming to save the lives of those in Cameroon, in particular, in those, with that of the north and the southwest, you are fooling yourself. The agenda is more than what they are saying. It's a hidden agenda. They have something else, not that they want to penetrate war-hit zones. Because the people in the bushes, they are not ready for the vaccine. So I think that this is not a good idea, and it is not going to be welcomed by either of the parties, because as we speak, people were fighting today in Kumbo. Yeah, people were, there was serious gunshot in Kumbo, and last week a grandmother was killed in one subdivision, and we have had these cases. The other guy was tortured the other week. These are the people that we will call for a ceasefire, and nothing will happen, because the UN has proven to us that each time they call for whatsoever, for a ceasefire or whatsoever, nothing is being done in consequences. Because if I know that you want me and you will not punish me at the end of the day, then I'll continue to do what I'm doing. After you don't exist. So the UN, I think this is a challenge to the UN. Let's see what will happen, because it is for the parties to respect ceasefire. That is not going to be possible.
Okay, that's not going to be possible. Now, Mr. Christian Njock, I don't know why I always have the tendency to want to call you Florent Njock because of one of our colleagues, yes, in Bamenda. Now, do you even have the impression that the population of Cameroon awaits the arrival of these vaccines? Because the United Nations Security Council is so concerned that they want the warring factions to down their guns because of the vaccine. Do they really, the population, are they waiting for this vaccine?
Bien, permettez-moi d'abord de dire quelque chose à la suite de ce que a dit tout à l'heure le SG du MODECNA. Non, je voudrais effectivement le faire comprendre que on ne peut pas remettre la position du ministre de l'Intérieur, donc le ministre Tangandji, en l'espèce sur une question de sécurité nationale. C'est-à-dire, il en assure la souveraineté de l'État. Et il ne peut pas s'asseoir et tenir ce même discours face aux bandits qui tuent. Et vous-même, vous l'avez dit hier encore, aujourd'hui, on a tué. Et face à ça, il faut la force de l'État. Il faut, oui, les populations. Il faut ramener la primauté de l'État. Et l'État est inaliénable, inattaquable et imprescriptible. Il ne se divisera jamais. Sur ce point, vraiment, il faut qu'on soit d'accord. C'est une question républicaine. C'est une question patriotique. On ne s'amuse pas avec. Et il faut peut-être que je vous rappelle que moi, je fais partie d'une ère, je fais partie d'une ère géographique où nos parents ont bagarré. Nos parents ont donné de leur vie. Nos parents ont été sacrifiés pour l'intégrité du territoire du Cameroun. Donc, on ne peut même pas cautionner un seul moment que le Cameroun puisse se diviser. Il faut arrêter ces discours qui encouragent les gens à venir, n'est-ce pas, nous diviser le Cameroun. Deuxième des choses, je voudrais effectivement dire également que nous sommes là dans la géopolitique mondiale, voyez-vous. Et dans la géopolitique mondiale, il s'agit des intérêts qui commandent effectivement le rapport de force mondiale. Et là, vous ne faites que parler du jeu des Nations Unies. Quel est le jeu des Nations Unies ici? Qu'est-ce qu'ils font? Effectivement, quand ils convoquent la logique du cessez-le-feu, parce qu'en convoquant une deuxième hypothèse, qu'il serait celle en pleine Covid, qui serait évidemment celle de pouvoir traiter les uns les autres, on comprend effectivement que là, le Big Four, marchands qui ont sorti les médicaments, comment dirais-je, les vaccins jusqu'ici, veulent faire passer le vaccin, veulent faire écouler. Ça trouve toute sa position. Maintenant, à nos pays, d'être effectivement forts, parce que là, c'est une autre guerre, Mr. Kum. C'est une guerre intellectuelle, c'est une guerre scientifique. Et il faudrait donc que l'État du Cameroun, les pays africains puissent aller dans ce concert de nations avec la force qui est la leur. Et notre force, c'est l'automédication. Comment dire ça? Pas l'automédication. Les médicaments traditionnels, ce qu'on appelle la médecine traditionnelle chez nous. J'espère que mon ami Prince, qui se prévaut parfois d'être un très grand en l'espèce, nous trouvera des vaccins qui vont permettre effectivement de rééquilibrer. Des remèdes, je voulais dire des remèdes. Non, j'ai dit Prince, des remèdes. Donc, c'est le débat qu'on fait. Prenons le cas de Christian Cardinal Tommy, non pas Tommy, Cléda, ouais, avec le Clédavid et les autres. Effectivement, que nous au Cameroun, on veut avoir le Clédavid que d'avoir les vaccins qui viennent d'ailleurs. Parce que si vous faites une perception, en ce moment où vous interrogez la population, on va effectivement vous dire que ces vaccins-là viennent tuer les populations. Parce que c'est une guerre de com. Parce que là, on a la guerre de communication entre les grands groupes qui sont en train de vous bagarrer. On vous dit celui-ci n'est pas bon, le variant sud-africain n'est pas bon, celui russe n'est pas essentiellement bon. Donc, non, je vais le dire de ma parole, effectivement.
Oui, parce que je voulais que, quand on parlait comme ça, nous étudions les Camerounais. Je crois que vous m'avez mal compris, mon ami de politique de la PCRN, quand je parlais du ministre de l'administration territoriale. C'était que monsieur Atangandji nous montrer chaque jour comment les efforts sont mis en place pour que les gars déposent les armes. Et à chaque moment, il était même à Bafou. Et les gens déposent les armes. Donc, quand on appelle au cessez-le-feu, les efforts faits à l'interne produisent déjà les fruits sans l'appel de l'ONU. Vous comprenez où je partais? Donc, je vais dire que, naturellement, le Cameroun est capable de faire taire les armes. Ce n'est pas l'ONU qui viendra nous dit qu'il faut faire taire les armes parce qu'ils vont faire passer un certain vaccin du Covid-19 dans les villes où les armes volent encore. Donc c'est ce que je vous dis en train de dire.
Moi, je suis tout à fait d'accord avec vous sur cette position qui est bien structurée, Et d'ailleurs, ce que j'ai compris par le passé, mais j'ai voulu le marteler pour dire effectivement qu'il faut arrêter de faire croire qu'on mettra la République au même niveau que, n'est-ce pas, des malfaisants.
On demande à ce que tous les Camerounais, on ne tue plus les gens. Parce que ceux qui meurent là-bas, il y a les civils, il y a les...
It's not a debate between the two of you now. Why not just...
Vous me permettez effectivement...
I give him point in time to try to wear a cap on somebody that they come
to... Let me give my point of view. Permit me. Voilà, je suis en train de dire effectivement que, en l'espèce, ce que nous pensons, c'est que dans cette guerre psychologique, dans cette guerre géopolitique, c'est-à-dire le positionnement des États sur la scène mondiale, il faudrait que nos pays, parce que l'autre chose c'est ça, il faudrait que nos pays soient en même de pouvoir être aptes à pouvoir donner dans ce Conseil des Nations. Parce que l'autre chose qui se casse derrière, c'est ça. Voilà les vaccins, on est en train de parler des vaccins qui veulent être donnés aux uns aux autres. Qu'est-ce que nous nous proposons? Voyez-vous, on a eu Madagascar qui a proposé la Témésia, qui était quasiment la solution miracle de départ. Aujourd'hui, on vous dit que ça ne sert plus à rien. Voyez-vous, on a fait tout pour pouvoir tuer ça. L'OMS a refusé quasiment de reconnaître, n'est-ce pas, cette nouvelle trouvaille africaine. On a eu le clé David. Qu'est-ce qui s'est passé? Il y a autant de remèdes. J'ai vu le docteur Ndisamba et d'autres médecins parler effectivement des mesures qu'ils ont trouvées. Quand ils vont voir le ministère de la Santé publique, qu'est-ce qu'on dit? On rabourgue ceci. Et il faut donc comprendre que des populations telles que nous sommes, pour revenir à votre question, les populations ne sont pas prêtes à recevoir ce médecin, mais, ces vaccins. Mais est-ce qu'elles ont donc la capacité de pouvoir refuser ces vaccins? Parce que c'est l'autre question qui se pose.
Okay. Now, should a ceasefire be called by the United Nations just because of the vaccine?
But that is a big question. Now, that is what makes us see the kind of a selfish or diabolic interest in the call for the ceasefire, because since 2016, we have been expecting the U.S. to do more. It is true that the Secretary General UN came to Cameroon, and the impression we had that he came for gifts, came and took his gifts and left. But we were expecting more. And what were we expecting? We were expecting sanctions on Cameroon. We were expecting sanctions on Cameroon, and unfortunately, these sanctions didn't come. And just for us to be informed today that the issue about the virus, the ceasefire, is about the introduction of the COVID drugs or whatsoever. And we are asking ourselves if truly this is what the UN stands for. The COVID has come with a lot of politics in it, and we are no more seeing the COVID as that kind of a disease that has actually come. Because in the Northwest and Southwest region, in the first place, those who have traveled to the Northwest understand that when you reach Bamenda and you are going to the hinterland, you're going to Uku, you're going to these places, the boys in the bushes do not even want you to put the face masks. This is one thing you should understand. Once they see you with the face masks, they understand, I don't know their interpretation, they take you for a different person. They do not want to see people with face masks. Is it the vaccine that they are going to take? That is the fundamental question that we're going to ask ourselves. But in the same vein, I do not want to completely go against the goodwill, let me call it the goodwill of the UN, to say that if it's after a disease that after it exists, they are foreseeing that the disease may take a different level and blur if measures are not taken. And they are thinking that, okay, one of the ways in which they could come in would be that people should take the vaccine and let not only the gun kill people, let not the gun kill people, and then the disease and the virus again kill people. They think that actually they can be able to prevent in one way or the other. But I think that they are throwing water on the duck's back. Because if it is not today that they are calling for a ceasefire. Since 2016, they have been worried and they have been calling for a ceasefire and nothing has happened. We're waiting for sanctions on both parties, on the government as well on the splinter groups. And we have not had any of these happen. I don't think that the order is saying that they are worried and concerned about the security or what the health conditions of the people in the Northwest and Southwest. Is that what is going to change whatsoever? We say no, that is not going to change. I think that something meaningful should be done, is that they should be able to call the government and the warring faction, and actually the real sanctions should be meted out on them. It is not by calling, what measures are they going to put in place to be able to ensure that actually this is respected? that the ruling faction, the splinter groups, respect the fact that it should be ceasefire. What measures are you going to take with the government to be sure that the government actually respects? Because even now, we are talking about people who are dropping their guns. Who is the only people we are having the sing-song, the cliche about people dropping their guns are the separatist groups. We are not hearing anything about the government or the soldiers who actually, we think that they themselves have something to offer as far as this war is concerned. They themselves have to have some restraint in the way they are going about these things. Because when you look at the reports about the all human rights organizations in the world, I mean, you understand that the government and the armed forces in Cameroon have a lot that is fueling this crisis in the North and South region. We have had reports that say that they are arbitrarily killing people, the Cameroon armed forces. They are arbitrarily killing people. And that there are a lot of, exercising a lot of force on the helpless people of the North and South people, especially on women and children, and a lot of things there, exactions on these people. I think that just saying that the people should drop and there should be ceasefire is not enough. Something concrete should be done. Even the UN has had people in the North and South people, humanitarian workers, medical workers who have been targeted and who have been killed. I think it doesn't end at that. You come even up to, they are leaving the real core of the matter and catching something else. I think even they wanted to introduce their vaccine, there is a way in which they have to do it. Just calling for a ceasefire is not enough. Because I think the Anglophones are even suffering in this thing more than, even you see in the Francophone region, there are most Anglophones now who are being targeted, and you find that most of them are going through untold suffering just because they bear the fact that they are Anglophones, and of course nobody wants to accept with it. Any Anglophone that is seen around, or in most quarters, there are many quarters that are being targeted because they are the fears of the Anglophone.
You are an Anglophone. Have you been targeted?
Of course, I have friends who have been targeted. I have brothers and sisters who have been targeted. I have people who have, unreasonable checks in their individual lives, and that we have to be cognizant of that. We have to actually keep that in their mind that this issue is taken on toll kind of dimension that we have to.
Yes, we also have been joined by Dr. Barrister Payere of the Social Democratic Front. He's in the studio with us. If I may ask you, which should cause a ceasefire? The lives of the persons that have died so far, or this vaccine now?
Oui, bonsoir. Je m'excuse d'abord. Les embouteillages, vraiment. Je n'aurais pas voulu arriver après beaucoup de minutes comme ça. Merci, Monsieur Kum. C'est la première fois que je suis sur un plateau de My Media Prime. J'ai été pour le briefing une fois. Bon, la chaîne me flatte tellement. Merci de m'avoir invité. Bon, relativement à ce qui se passe, que ce soit le cessez-le-feu, c'est ça même que beaucoup de Camerounais voudraient que ça arrive par n'importe quelle voie, c'est l'essentiel. Le Cameroun a besoin de la paix. Cette histoire dans le Nozo a tellement duré. Au début, les gens ont voulu dire que c'était quelque chose qui n'existait pas et on a cru que en un laps de temps, on pouvait faire disparaître cela. Or, au fur et à mesure que le temps passe, vous voyez, vous observez vous-même, ça résiste. Des communiqués, les gens sont montés sur les antennes pour dire que non, c'est déjà anéanti. Et vous avez vu, c'est un serpent de mer, cette histoire, parce que il y a quelque temps seulement, bon, certains juraient même déjà que peut-être un certain Phil Marchard serait porté disparu. Et vous avez vu sa réapparition au niveau de l'IBLM et les conséquences. Donc c'est quelque chose, quand nous parlons cela avec beaucoup d'émotion. Le co-panéliste qui vient de parler a parlé avec beaucoup d'émotion. Les frères francophones souffrent autant que vous. Parce que ces zones, c'était des zones que nous y allions. J'ai fait classe 1, classe 2 à Tombel. C'est l'un de mes coins où j'ai commencé avant de revenir côté francophone. Donc aujourd'hui, je ne peux pas accéder facilement à Tombel, à Ebonge, un peu partout. Je me trouve aussi mal à l'aise dans la peau d'un anglophone. Et mon souhait, c'est que la paix soit. Bon, si on veut venir aujourd'hui, avec la paix qui pouvait être trouvée par les Camerounais à l'interne. Parce que si les Camerounais, au début, avaient pris cette crise très au sérieux, je crois que le dialogue aurait prévalu et ce serait parti très vite. On a laissé les choses s'envenimer, s'endurcir et devenir très résistantes. Et à l'heure actuelle, on cherche des solutions. Quand on cherche des solutions, je dis pour ma part, bon, c'est mon point de vue, et c'est aussi le point de vue du SDF, on a toujours prôné ce dialogue inclusif. On a parlé du grand dialogue, certains sont allés, certains ont voulu condamner d'autres. On croyait, parce que par toutes les solutions que nous pouvons trouver, même si c'est un fou qui peut nous proposer aujourd'hui une solution miracle où on dit à nos frères ambazoniens, arrêtez, et ils arrêtent. Et aux militaires qui, de temps en temps, font des exactions, arrêtez, c'est la paix, et c'est la paix que les Camerounais veulent. Bon, maintenant, quand on voudrait peut-être, il y a cessé le feu qu'on parle de part et d'autre. Quand on demande à l'armée, on a demandé à un certain moment, il y a même eu un certain moment où on a demandé un peu dans le monde, qui est accalmie sur les fronts. Bon, cette accalmie, peut-être ça a été respecté ailleurs, mais au Cameroun, ça a toujours ressurgi à un certain moment. Et nous regrettons cela. Parce que quand on dit à un certain moment accalmie, c'est le temps que peut-être les deux factions essaient de réfléchir pour voir, est-ce qu'on ne peut pas se regarder dans les yeux et voir, on perd de part et d'autre, que ce soit l'armée, que ce soit les civils, que ce soit les ambazoniens. Ça, il y a trop de coulées de sang. Bon, maintenant, si on voudrait passer peut-être par le Covid, ou la Covid, comme il y a deux sexes pour cette maladie, c'est tantôt masculin ou féminin, je dis pour moi souvent le Covid. Si on veut passer par là, pour dire que c'est cela qui fera un cessez-le-feu, nous appelons en ce moment comme ça la communauté internationale. Or, pour moi, je suis carrément opposé. Les solutions pour cette paix au Cameroun sont internes. On a voulu évoluer de temps en temps, mais à un certain moment, on oublie qu'il faudrait que les principaux acteurs mettent leur sceau là-dessus. Il y a toujours quelque chose sur beaucoup de plateaux, j'ai l'habitude de dire, c'est qu'il y a eu la All Anglophone Conference, qu'on a toujours empêché aux gens de pouvoir parler entre eux, les plus impliqués, comme le frère disait tout à l'heure, qu'ils puissent se parler entre eux, se regarder dans les yeux et trouver des solutions. Venez maintenant avec le reste du Cameroun et les autorités administratives qui, au début, ont toujours minimisé cette scène, de pouvoir tirer quelque chose de ce qu'ils diront. On n'a pas pu le faire, on a empêché plusieurs fois, c'est regrettable. Je crois, de temps en temps, il y a des solutions qui sont envisagées, peut-être les réunions hors du pays, comme j'ai entendu ces derniers jours, que vivement ça arrive. Mais quant à prendre le Covid en question, est-ce que le Covid, réellement, on a fait cela, ça nous touche réellement? Je ne dis pas, il faut qu'on soit prudent. Est-ce que ça nous prend comme ça prend? Le paludisme touche depuis des années. Vous voyez le miracle, ce qui est surprenant, pour cette maladie que je dis souvent, elle est mystérieuse. Elle sort là, à peine quelques temps, les victimes sont plus ailleurs, les fabricants de vaccins. Ça les touche plus. Mais ils sont plus inquiets de la situation de l'Afrique, et particulièrement du Cameroun. Ils sont plus inquiets. Et il faudrait que cela quitte, on teste chez nous. Alors que nous avons, la guerre du Nozo est plus grave que le Covid. Parce que s'il faut compter sur les bouts de doigts, combien de morts la guerre dans la zone anglophone a fait, et par rapport au nombre de morts pour le Covid, vraiment c'est, on dirait un grain de sable dans la mer. Ça, ce n'est pas grand-chose. Donc vraiment, accent sur la réconciliation.
Do we need to be reminded? Are we saying that the Cameroon government and the separatist leaders need to be reminded to do what almost everybody is expecting from them, from the United Nations?
Not quite, Mr. Liu. It's just that the government has, for the years back, I don't know whether the killings do not affect certain persons. At one time on my outings, I've often said that it's maybe because those that are being killed every day in the Northwest and the Southwest are children of farmers, and that they've maybe touched big persons. I'm not saying that lives don't matter. But in this country, we know that there are certain people, there are certain Cameroonians who are more Cameroonians than others. Because the killings are enormous. Just like Maitre Paul Pyrie said, that what the COVID-19 is just like throwing a grain of sand in an, it's just like getting a cup of water to pour in an ocean. Because, first of all, the killings are so many. I was listening to the lady of Human Rights Watch today on a sister channel. She was interviewed, and they were talking about the excesses of the military. If you look at what people who are supposed to be trained, like what they didn't do about a young man that I watched, and I almost cried. I'm like, what is going on in Cameroon? On the other hand, when you look at the separatists that will take an individual like what happened to Florence Ayafo, cut you into pieces, that is enough to tell any conscious government that what is ongoing in the Southwest and the Northwest needs more attention. Look at what happened in Mother Francisca College in Kumba. How many children were killed? I think that, Micheal, the government, as the separatists, don't need to be reminded. But if there's one thing I've always said, I've always talked about the aspect of the government. Here we have a group of individuals, call them disgruntled individuals, because yesterday, like Champ Victor of Municipal of the right, in one of his papers that I admire a lot, there is one thing he wrote. He said, yesterday struggle, today armed robbers. To an extent, it's true, because when the crisis started in 2016, Micheal, we had people who were devoted. You had individuals who were fighting for a just cause. But progressively, there are some individuals who have joined the so-called separatists who are now terrorizing the communities, who are now thieves. It's very true. You have people who have deserted their homes because they have been asked, if you do not. I met with a cocoa farmer who left somewhere around KUNEH. He told me, I met him in Susa. He told me, Prince, I cannot go back because the guys told me we need 500,000 francs before the end of the weekend. And once you don't produce it, the consequences are enormous. The question you want to ask me is, what is somebody who is fighting for the independence of a people doing with money? What do they need the money for? He already goes to tell you that the atrocities in the Northwest and the Southwest region speak volume. COVID-19 is just an illness like any other illness. But I think that the level of communication, the communication put both by the government and international community about the COVID-19 is not the best. There are Cameroonians who don't believe that there is anything called coronavirus. Remember that one time there was an illness that came up called Ebola, where they told people do not eat the bush meat, you need to be eating bitter cola, you need to do. Cameroonians took that trend, and at one time it died a natural death. Today we're talking about COVID-19. And Cameroonians still believe that COVID-19 is an illness that can only affect people who are in cold places, I'm sure. And that Africans, we have generally hot temperature, and as such it cannot affect us. COVID-19 should not be what should be at the level of Cameroon today. The souls in the Northwest are so many. The number of internally displaced persons. Go to churches, you see how many people from the Northwest and the Southwest sleep in churches. Go to around Dokoti, you see there is one powerhouse, more than 300 children with him. During the day, those children need to go down the streets and hawk. And in the evening, what they make, they cook a pot of food for them. Micheal, what Cameroonians need today, those parents who left the Northwest and the Southwest, what they want today is not what government gives them regularly. It's not those bags of rice. It's not the mattresses you give them. What the people want is, they want to go back to their homes. They want to burn their cocoa yams and eat with their red oil the way they have been doing. So I think that the government, as well as the separatists, needed not wait this much for the Security Council to come out and say, okay, I want you guys to drop your weapons because we want to give vaccine. Here we have one, like Tamfu put it, there is an element of interest. They are not coming in because they feel that lives are being lost every day. No. They are coming in because there is a vaccine and we want to impose this vaccine on people. This is a vaccine that a lot of countries have been very skeptical about. Monsignor Cleda came up with something. Why not use it and call it COVID-19?
Okay.
Dr. Dewa came up with something. Even Dr. Fu came up with something. We need those things to cure our Cameroonians more than this vaccine they are coming with. They should test the vaccine in Europe, not in Africa.
Okay. Just ceasefire alone can't be accepted because the separatists in particular knows that that is tantamount to defeat without any solution. Ernest is writing from the United Arab Emirates. Hi, Mr. Leo. Every village, town, division must find their own solution. There is no we as solution. I am John. Okay, John, good evening to you. Bonsoir, Monsieur Liu, soirée à tout le monde sur le plateforme. Je pense que parler beaucoup de la question anglophone ne résoudra pas le problème et que le chef de l'État apporte de la piste des deux côtés. Merci. C'est Julio du West End. Okay, Julio. Good evening to you. Good evening. Mr. Liu, two wrongs don't make it right. The United Nations Security Council might just be proposing an idea for the ceasefire for the vaccine, which they have been doing in so many other nations with similar situations, but they have never had that power to intervene into internal political issues. The thing people have been failing to understand is that Cameroon is a sovereign nation, which means they have the supreme, absolute and uncontrollable power to control their issues. The UN Security Council can only intervene when they get cases of violation of human rights, which they can advise the authorities to fight against. Stop calling, please. Aiden Vioff, watching from Halifax in Canada. Good evening to you. Good evening, Mr. Leo, and the guests in the studio. We appreciate your coordination and contributions made by different panelists. I think it will be difficult for the call made by the UN Security Council to be respected because a lot of water has gone under the bridge without the active intervention of the UN. Mr. Ambe Emmanuel, writing from Bafut Subdivision. Good evening to you. Mr. Ambe. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Just want to know if this program is a bilingual program or an English program to talk about the Anglophone crisis. It's Emmanuel writing from Ekona. Good evening to you. Emmanuel, it's a Cameroonian program. This one says, good evening, Mr. Kum Leonard. Shu writing from Quen, below Foncha. Please, my own contribution is that we solve our problems in our own style. We value money than human life, while in church we pretend to be a true child of God. God is watching. Good evening to you, writing there from Bomenda. Good evening, everybody in the studio. For me, I think Cameroon government is not willing to stop the war, even if there is a ceasefire. Is just to satisfy their partners in Europe to taste their COVID vaccine. Didymus, writing from Yaoundé. Good evening to you, Didymus. Good evening, Mr. Leo, and to everyone in the studio. There is no other person resisting the call for peace than the Cameroon government. No other country in the world can negotiate the crisis. That is why leaders are made to take the oath of office to protect and defend the unity and the integrity and the sovereignty of their respective countries. The Cameroon government knows what to do if he so desires to end the war. The crisis has become more of an economic war, mutually beneficial to some of the military at the expense of the lives of young Cameroonians who are being murdered in cold blood every day. Okay, Maxel is writing from the United Arab Emirates. Maxel, good evening to you, please. This one says, good evening, sirs. All the government want to collect money from abroad and swell their pockets in the name of COVID. My name is Zax Zangong. Okay, writing from Douala. I don't know I don't know whether the United Nations is saying we want to give you money. My humble opinion is that if the UN loves Cameroon, they should urgently call for a dialogue in line with ceasefire to end the crisis. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and your co-panelists. Good evening to you. Good evening, Mr. Kum. I'm Iwe Paul from Kumba. I really love your program. When I think about this COVID issue as compared to this Anglophone problem, Mr. Kum, I shed tears. Mr. Kum, I don't think any true Anglophone who is in grown-up zero will encourage these vaccines. Okay. Good evening, Leo and panelists. You are doing great. Let's be careful. When the AIDS pandemic was announced in mid-80s, most Africans south of Sahara said it was a plot to deprive them of their sexual enjoyment. Villages were totally wiped out in Uganda, Kenya, etc. Let's avoid the same mistake with COVID-19. COVID-19 is real. Let individuals hold their opinions and simply pass the media information. God bless you. John Ngeson, writing from Moyuka. Thank you very much for that message. Mr. Liu, the UN is not... The UN are leaving the real issues in Cameroon and they are pushing shadows. They know what they are doing. It's all about politics. Blessing is writing from Boya. Okay, I keep the messages flowing the way they are coming. Lots of them. we want to say we appreciate your patronage of this program. Good evening to you, Nkumche. Bruce, good evening to you. Wonjambua, my friend out there, good evening to you. Brian Cyprian, and to you, Mama Taku, and to you all. Now, we are talking about this call. Is a UN also? The UN says we want ceasefire. But can the Cameroon government also, like he said earlier on, Mr. Payeri said earlier on, can the Cameroon government and the separatists not use this opportunity and also catch into it, because it's heavy to fund the wars? Many of the military and the Aba boys themselves are tired. Why not use this opportunity to say, oh, can we have a rethink and go for the downing of the guns?
Yes, that's the question all of us are asking. But unfortunately, when we have to look experience-wise, we realize that none of the parties will do that. None of them will do that, because if this war is still on up to today, I believe that there are some people who are feeding fat from this war. If not, it should have gone to an end. Because when you look critically, you realize that both parties are tired. Even the soldiers, when you speak to some of them, you realize that they see the war, that the war is useless, but since they work on instructions, they don't have a say on how either it should stop or not. And then the guys in the bushes have not had the opportunity to talk with them. But when you look critically, you realize that they too, if some are dropping their guns, it means that at a given point in time, some are tired of the whole thing. So I believe that if in this world nature, in this their tiredness, yet they are unable to say let the guns go completely silent, I think that this call will not go a long way to bring positive impact to the situation we are facing in the Northwest and the Southwest. And secondly, Leo, we should understand that in the U.S., as we speak, I was talking with a friend who's in the U.S. today, says that, but how come they are calling on countries faced with war to receive the vaccine, meanwhile they in the U.S. have not had the vaccine yet? And those are the countries in which they think it's at its peak. They are the ones who are suffering the most. And we're talking about the statistics, because we are talking about COVID-19 here. If you go to the internet and you have to find out about COVID-19, you will realize that the majority of those who are dying of the virus are those of the third age, the old. Majority of those dying are the old. And we have Africa, which has a population that is over 60% youth. And this is where the vaccine is going to be given free of charge, and very fast. Meanwhile, the countries in which the virus is at its peak, nothing is being done there. At this point in time, I think that if the UN is serious, they should see into it that countries that are most affected by this virus are the ones that should be given these vaccines at this point in time. Mm-hmm. Because we had the wife of Bill Gates who came out with a controversial statement that in the nearest future, corpses will be seen littering on the streets of Africa, which we have waited up till now, and we have not seen those corpses. Yeah, but we don't know if the coming of these vaccines will make the corpses to litter. Because, mind you, don't be shocked that if this after the coming of this vaccine, the COVID-19 number will heighten more than what it is now. You will be shocked to hear that maybe after this vaccine will have entered, the number will increase tremendously. So I think that this problem that we are faced with in Cameroon, now the highest thing that if somebody wants to help Cameroon with is to solve the Anglophone problem and not giving us some vaccine. We cannot be having malaria and they're trying to treat us with from typhoid. Yeah, you cannot also deny the fact that there are persons who have died in Cameroon from I cannot deny the fact. Yeah, so but if 2 or 3 persons have lost their lives. I still stand with the point that all life matters. Mm-hmm. And in Bamenda we have about over 3,000 deaths. COVID-19, when we have the statistics in Cameroon, not up to 1,000 people have died of COVID-19 in Cameroon. Why should we then put in so much effort in bringing in vaccine for prevention of COVID-19 in Cameroon and leave what is killing Cameroonians more? I think that we should have what they call priorities. What is the priority in Cameroon? In other nations, the COVID-19 may have killed more than the war. But we in Cameroon, who are living in Cameroon, who are on ground, Because when you say like that, I have seen people who have died of COVID-19. Because I'm in Bonapriso, and I happen to be beside the one of the emergency centers, where I see people, corpses going out every day. But the numbers, the official numbers, are not up to 1,000 yet. Okay. But we have had to this war that has taken more than 3,000 lives and so many displaced people. So in Cameroon, our priority now is not the COVID-19. Our priority is the war in the northwest and the southwest.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Nice program. Will negotiating succeed? What if it succeeds and contributes to another uprising in the same region or in another part of Cameroon? Good evening, Mr. Kum. May God bless you for the good work. I'm Galim Christian from Bamenda. Please, where is Kangaroo Man? We miss him. Kangaroo Man is also busy. He's there in Boya, busy with other duties. Why is Cameroon sovereign only during crisis issue and not alone from water banks? Good evening to you, Addison. They're questioning from the United States. Good evening to you all in the studio. Mr. Liu, I love your program. It's Elvis Brown writing from New Bell. The New Bell, is it the New Bell in Bamenda? Yes, I'm sure. Good evening to you, the Iron Lady. The Iron Lady watching from Womb out there in the Menchum division. Good evening to all of you guys. Elizabeth, that's the name. All of you watching us from Womb. Now, some people think that the United Nations is more concerned with the vaccine than the actual situation happening out there in the northwest and southwest region. Is that the feeling you have also?
Oui, Mr. Kum, d'entrée de jeu, je vous ai dit ici que le Cameroun est un enfant des Nations Unies.
Okay.
Et le problème historique que nous vivons aujourd'hui est l'œuvre des Nations Unies. Souvenez-vous que le Cameroun a été divisé entre Cameroun anglophone et Cameroun francophone. Du moins, en commençant même, le Cameroun a été mis sous mandat de la SDN, puis sous tutelle des Nations Unies. Donc, c'est les Nations Unies qui nous ont amenés jusqu'ici. Et la situation que nous connaissons depuis le 4 mars 1916 à date, qui a créé ce qu'on appelle la crise anglophone aujourd'hui ou la crise identitaire, que nous on dit aujourd'hui, nous, au niveau du Parti Cameroun pour la réconciliation nationale, nous prenons quelque part les Nations Unies comme étant un problème, si vous voulez, un élément fondateur de cette crise aujourd'hui, et que, connaissant mieux cette crise, maîtrisant mieux ce qui s'est passé le 11 février 1961 à date, eux, ils ont la solution de pouvoir effectivement juguler cette question. On ne comprend pas pourquoi, jusqu'à présent, cette question n'a pas toujours été inscrite à l'ordre du jour des Nations Unies. D'ailleurs, si elle n'a déjà pas été inscrite à l'ordre du jour du Parlement camerounais, ne vous posez pas la question de savoir pourquoi elle n'a pas été inscrite à l'ordre du jour, n'est-ce pas, des Nations Unies. Vous, à partir de là, vous pouvez comprendre qu'il y a des élans, tant endogènes qu'exogènes, qui cohabitent ensemble et qui ne nous disent pas toujours où on va. Parce qu'effectivement, les Nations Unies sont pilotées par des forts et on sait effectivement ce qui se passe à l'intérieur, parce que là on est dans une posture de géopolitique mondiale et dans la recherche de positionnement sur la scène internationale, ce ne sont que les intérêts qui priment. Voyez-vous, les Nations Unies n'ont pas à nous faire des cadeaux. Moi, je suis toujours de ceux qui pensent qu'il faut qu'on sorte de ce paternalisme-là. Effectivement, qu'on ait des solutions endogènes fortes, des institutions fortes, avec une démocratie parlante. Les populations peuvent effectivement s'exprimer à travers ce que nous on a convoqué, appelé la décentralisation locale, qui doit être celle-là, qui doit être efficiente. Et nous sortir de ça. Donc, n'attendez pas les Nations Unies. Vous savez bel et bien, prenons le cas de l'OMS, qui est l'instrument fondamental des Nations Unies en matière de santé publique. Quelle est la position de l'OMS en ce moment? Vous avez vu, par exemple, du temps de Donald Trump, quand il a voulu sortir l'OMS et toutes ces autres institutions, vous voyez comment ça s'est positionné. Aujourd'hui que tout le monde connaît la vision des démocrates, notamment à travers son instrument qui est le NDI.
Can you check the volume? I don't know whether it has an issue. Many persons are writing me that they are not getting, the volume went off, especially from Bamenda.
Oui, effectivement, à travers son instrument qui est le NDI, ils sont là pour promouvoir d'autres valeurs. Et c'est ces valeurs-là qui s'imposent à nous. Il faut donc que, effectivement, nos dirigeants comprennent. C'est ça ma position ici sur le plateau, Mr. Kum. Parce qu'on va toujours faire ce reproche aux Nations Unies, oui, mais quelle est la position qui est la nôtre? Je vous ai pris l'exemple ici, n'est-ce pas, de Madagascar, avec, comment ils ont appelé ça, la Témésia. Quand ils ont découvert la Témésia, qu'est-ce qui s'est passé? L'OMS a refusé de reconnaître la Témésia comme une solution endogène africaine. Vous avez vu le Sénégal, par exemple, qui a essayé de vouloir expérimenter cette artémisia. Aujourd'hui, le président sénégalais, le premier africain à s'être vacciné. C'est autant de problèmes, c'est autant de paramètres. Nous sommes dans une guerre, nous sommes dans une nouvelle guerre. Et cette guerre, c'est ce que Samuel Huntington appelait la guerre de la civilisation, des cultures. Et qu'est-ce que nous apportons donc, nous, culture africaine, à cette autre guerre, c'est-à-dire cette nouvelle guerre dite de santé, parce que c'est une autre forme de guerre. Qu'est-ce que nous proposons? C'est là où on attendait donc que les gouvernements africains et camerounais puissent effectivement accompagner ces solutions qu'on retrouve par ça et là pour pouvoir lutter contre ça. Donc n'attendez pas que les Nations Unies, qui a priori, moi je vais vous faire cet aveu, gagnent dans la crise anglophone, parce que c'est eux qui abritent ceux qui financent, c'est eux qui abritent ceux qui financent ces guerres, c'est eux qui abritent effectivement ces leaders qui véhiculent ces messages. Si on voulait en achever avec, on aurait déjà extradé Marc Barretta, on aurait extradé Akwanga et Benezet, on aurait extradé tous les autres. On a vu même du temps de, comment on appelait le président fantôme qui est en prison à KUNEH aujourd'hui, Sissiko Ayuktabe. Il était où? Il montait, il descendait aux États-Unis aussi, aux Nations Unies. Voyez-vous, il nous narguait même. Et eux, ils encouragent ça, effectivement. Voyez-vous, en recevant même permettez que j'aille des pseudo-pétitions de pouvoir. Pour dire. En une seconde, pour dire, effectivement. Pour dire que n'attendons rien des Nations Unies. Eux, ils sont là pour imposer la logique des plus forts.
COVID is real, but people are skeptical of the vaccine because the government of Cameroon tells too much lies to its citizens. So no one believes any advice from the regime in place. Uncle Nji is writing from Bamenda. Uncle Nji, you say it's real, so believe in what you believe. Hi, sir. I'm Henry Bisson. I want us to concentrate on the issues of water, which is supposed to be a common good and a key factor for our health and welfare. Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Elvis writing from Santa. The issue of the war in the Northwest and Southwest is we should learn to love each another. The people ruling the country are not good. Only God will see us through. God bless you, Mr. Liu. Thank you. God bless you too. Good evening, Mr. Liu. The volume is off, so viewers can follow up. Gallus is writing from Bomenda. Mr. Leo, this vaccine of a thing may come to cause both parties to drop their weapons, but can cause more crisis than the war itself. Emmanuel is writing from KUNEH. Mr. Liu, I live in New York City. The vaccine is available here in America. The problem is people are afraid to take the vaccine. I have taken the vaccine, and the coronavirus is real, my dear brothers. Okay, thank you. That is somebody who has taken the vaccine and is alive. I know persons who have also taken the vaccine out there. Hello, Senior Leo. Blessed evening. Please, the voices are not coming out. It's just mutes. Bongajum Derek Ndisi at New Bell in Bomenda. Certainly, there is an audio problem in Bomenda. Good evening, Mr. Liu and the panelists. The UN Security Council cannot be calling for ceasefire just for the sake of the COVID-19 vaccine. They should be calling for a ceasefire to solve the crisis, because after pushing through with the vaccine, the problems that provoked the war would not have been solved. Albert is writing from Bomenda. Now, Dr. Micheal and Ndimancho, are we saying that if the ceasefire is called because of the vaccine, it is to permit that the vaccine is distributed in the troubled areas across the globe? Are we saying that once the vaccines, everybody is vaccinated, people should pick up guns again?
Well,
if we go by the motive for this,
I think that's a very, very fundamental question. But I think that the idea is that if people should stop war for 2 or 3 weeks, it means that maybe they will be able to come back and reflect and see the dangers of war and see what they have gone through. It will be a period of reflection. And I don't think that those who have lived the experiences of war would like to come back to those experiences again. I just think that that is the idea about it. If people can be able to accept to have a break just to take the vaccine, it means that they can be ready to accept to sit down for a real dialogue, and after a meaningful dialogue, and be able to accept that they have lost a lot of people, and that a lot of people are, exiled, the refugees out of the country, internally displaced, and that we will be able to come back to their reality. And that's just a fact. But then, let us face one fact. The fact is that coronavirus is real. That is that's what we should agree here. The coronavirus is real. Whatever the UN wants to use to let the people drop their guns, let us accept that it's something that is real. And I don't think that ceasefire, or that there should be something about the vaccines. I mean, like people think that there is something to eat that the eye doesn't see. Because if the UN really wanted to bring something that would put down the population of Northern and South region, they can easily do that. I was with a colleague from the University of Bamenda today, and he was boasting to me how the population of Bamenda and the Northwest in general, they are happy because they are receiving a lot of humanitarian aid. Bags of rice, savon, cubes of soap, and then people are just receiving, they are just giving them, they are just giving to the population. I think that the UN could still use, because most of those things are coming from humanitarian organizations, and they can still inject whatever they want to inject in those materials. They don't need to go through a vaccine. It is easy to extinguish a population, not just through vaccines. I mean, I talked with a friend in London who took the vaccine, and he said it's not even one time taking. It's two times. Yes, 2 time taking.
It's 2.
Yes. So you take the first time, and then there's a period of 2-3 months, you take the second dose. So I think let us be realistic about this thing. Coronavirus is real, and I think that perhaps the UN is in good faith because they have seen how it has ravaged the whole world. And they think that added to the war that we have in the Northwest and Southwest region, it can just be catastrophic. And they think that if we can have a break, I mean, there is always a trigger to everything. This could be a trigger that if we should stop and reflect and say, okay, this is a disease period. We should leave fighting and after the fight for the health of our people. We know that we have lost so many people. And I don't think that we can continue to lose them. No, we have lost so many people. And the fear of the UN is that this can deteriorate if we do not take this into consideration.
Okay. Anderson Ali, he's watching us right from the United States of America. He says, on the question of vaccine, I think the brother is either not updated or he is blatantly exaggerating the vaccine statistics to project an anti-vaccine agenda. The United States of America is hard hit, and more than 150 million persons have had double doses, like you just said. So saying the vaccine is not being administered here is false and very misleading. Okay, good evening to you, Anderson. He says ceasefire resolution could be testing waters to see if the worrying factors can respect the international orders, so we can look at this dimension too. Thank you very much, Anderson. Are we now insinuating that coronavirus is a messiah that has come to quench the war? What if coronavirus is eradicated? Would people go back to bush to continue killing each other? Onkunji, writing from Bamenda, Mr. Liu, please, I want to disagree with the guy saying people in USA are not taking the virus, okay? I'm sure the vaccine. The USA has a population, this is another person writing from Canada. The USA has a population of about 200 million people. The problem right now in the US and Canada is that the company producing the drugs are running out of production. These are one of the main reasons people here have not taken the drugs, because they have to start with first responders being nurses, doctors, law enforcement, then move to the elderly before getting to everyone. So it's not fair to give people wrong information. So let's just focus on the topic. Coronavirus is real, Aiden. Okay, I'm sure the persons watching us from out there are reacting to what we are saying out here. This one says, good evening, sir. It is evident that there is a UN hidden agenda on this vaccine. This war has been going on for long without any serious intervention for them. People have been dying as a result of this war and many displaced. Let them stop the war first. Elvis is writing from Dubai. Mr. Liu, our elites in the north and southwest trace murders, okay, they are very wicked and do not love their people. They are living, okay. Elvis writing from Santa in the northwest region there. Mr. Liu, the major crisis in the northwest and southwest are the Amber Boys killing their own people. Let's forget about the international community. For the vaccine, I don't think COVID vaccine is the first to Cameroon. So let's not be too negative. Kids is writing from NICOM, that is in Womb. We are going to take a short break. When we come back, we discuss our second topic for tonight. You're watching Prime on My Media Prime. Welcome back. We are now going to be looking at what is making rounds on social media concerning our MPs responding to U.S. Congressmen and women that has brought Honorable Jean-Michel Nitcheu of the Social Democratic Front to the fore, criticizing the move of his peers. That is, and then Honorable Joshua Osei was particularly targeted, which we are going to find out why. But I want us to start with the representative of the Social Democratic Front on this platform, Barrister Payere. Qu'est-ce qui ne va pas? Est-ce que le député aussi a été mal compris par la population?
Oui. Je ne veux pas passer par 4 chemins pour dire oui. C'est un oui que je peux insister 1000 fois. Nous parlions tout à l'heure dans le premier thème de cette sécurité qui nous tient à cœur. On ne doit pas passer par des chemins contournés pour dire qu'on va faire cesser la guerre. Le SDF, dans sa logique, a toujours prêché le dialogue, le cessez-le-feu et tout consort. Donc, s'il est arrivé que l'honorable aussi a posé sa signature sur une correspondance, je ne sais pas, les gens ont tellement lu cette correspondance, on dirait que les gens ont traduit d'une manière passionnée. Et surtout, le fait part de la maison. Et le SDF n'est pas divisé, c'est un parti où on sent un dynamisme en interne. Parce qu'il y a des courants de pensée, mais au juste, le SDF demeure un parti monocéphale, ça n'a pas de tête, parce que celui qui reste actuellement en train de gérer le SDF demeure le chairman Njock. Donc, dans les solutions, chercher des solutions pour mettre un terme à cette guerre qui nous dérange tous, parce que nous tous autour de cette table, chacun déplore ce qui se passe dans le nôtre. Alors, dès lors qu'une occasion peut se prêter pour que certains députés puissent, 62, écrire pour demander à leurs homologues des États-Unis, si vous pouvez parler au lieu de... Il faut demander, est-ce que vous ne pouvez pas nous aider à déraciner le mal à partir de chevaux? Parce que les grands financiers, ils sont là, ils animent cette guerre, ils couvrent les financiers de cette guerre, ils se baladent, ils ne sont pas à mesure de pouvoir leur dire arrêtez. Mais comme quelqu'un a dit sur le plateau, ça c'est un grand business pour ce qui se passe dans le Nozo. C'est un grand commerce des affaires. C'est l'économie de la guerre. Tellement certains ne souhaitent même pas que ça s'arrête. Et quand on trouve que cette situation persiste, le SDF, au niveau du Parlement, au niveau de l'Assemblée, à un certain moment, les députés SDF ont fait un front pour demander qu'on mette la question anglophone sur la table. La majorité, étant contre cette minorité, n'a pas suivi. Alors quand l'occasion se prête qu'on puisse écrire pour demander si c'est possible, si vous pouvez nous aider, parce que tout ce qui se pose là comme acte, c'est des actes criminels. À un certain moment, on dit tu poses un acte criminel, tu dois être sanctionné. Est-ce que vous pouvez nous aider à pouvoir extrader ces gens vers ici? Parce que ce qui se passe, les gens ont pris tout pour dire leur communiqué ou leur lettre disait qu'on rapatrie tous les Camerounais qui sont là-bas. Non, faisons très attention, lisons entre les lignes. Ce n'est pas cela. Il y a une certaine catégorie qui anime cette guerre. Pourquoi ne pas les livrer pour qu'ils soient jugés? On peut juger les gens et amnistier, parce que ce qui se passe, souvent dans des crises pareilles, à un certain moment, on ne va pas seulement pour couper les têtes. Il faut au juste après trouver un dialogue. Okay. Donc, c'est autant de choses. Ce n'est pas dit, les gens ont interprété cela mal. Et maintenant, je peux dire où c'est la guerre de succession qui se crée quand le chairman a dit qu'il est fatigué. Il ne voudrait plus. Et qu'on se mette à interpréter les choses au point d'aller aux injures. C'est un peu ça, c'est enflammé. Heureusement, au fur et à mesure que le temps passe, ça se tasse un peu. Sinon, le communiqué, c'est que, et ce qui est surprenant d'ailleurs, sur 62 députés, il n'y a qu'un seul individu qu'on doit. Et il n'est pas le seul dans le STF. Pourquoi? Rien que aussi. Il y a un problème.
C'est lui qui a porté le flambeau du parti, non, pendant les élections.
Il a porté le flambeau du parti.
C'est pas tout le monde qui a porté,
mais
non?
Est-ce que la solution, c'est qu'il a voulu sa volonté? Okay. Est-ce que c'est une mauvaise solution de pouvoir dire déracinons le mal à l'extérieur, ne finançons pas, vous parliez tout à l'heure de l'ONU. L'ONU interviendra, l'ONU prendra l'argent sur le Camerounais pour payer tous ceux qui vont éviter de l'extérieur là. Et pendant ce temps, l'ONU sera en train d'exploiter le sol camerounais. Allez en République centrafricaine, vous allez voir ce qui se passe. L'ex-Zaïre et tout consort.
Okay, this is Julius Chofo from the UK. Can you please ask the SDF representative if the Grand arrested in Bafoussam a few days ago for kidnappings in the northwest were Amber fighters? Okay, the gang were Amber fighters. Good evening to you, Barrister Andom. Good evening to you, my brother. You say, Mr. Kum Leonard, I like your program because it is educative. What is paramount now is for the UN Security Council to step in and solve the crisis in southern Cameroon that has taken close to 15,000 souls, okay, unreported and excruciating pains on the people, rather than putting all their energies on the coronavirus. The Cameroon government is intransigent to solve the problem. Say hi to my erudite friend, Prince Joel Mukage. This is Barrister Andom Stanley, writing from Douala. Good evening to you, Barrister. I would have loved you to be here on Thursday, but you say you're going somewhere else. Let's hope that the days ahead you come. Good evening, Mr. Liu. These honorables are expected to cause the Speaker to discuss this issue in the House of Assembly in Cameroon instead of counteracting the position of the U.S. Congress. No matter what it takes, our wish is that this crisis should come to an end. The suffering, exploitation, and extortion is unbearable. My regards to Dr. Ndimancho. Steve is writing from Bamenda. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Leslie, writing from Boston. The vaccine in USA is not the same vaccine that is in Africa. The vaccine from China and India are not the same with the one in the UK and USA. Cameroon government will not bother to get the low-quality vaccine from China to vaccinate innocent Cameroonians. Good evening, Mr. Liu. This virus is real, but in Cameroon, catarrh and cough is said to be COVID-19. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Thanks for your relentless efforts in educating the public. My question goes this, if there was no virus in UN, if there was no virus, the UN would not do anything to stop the war. William is writing from Bamenda. I am Bisong from Douala. Concerning this Anglophone problem, I think peace comes from being able to contribute the best that we have and all that we are towards creating a world that supports everyone. But it is also securing the space for others to contribute the best that they have and all they are. If you want to make peace with your enemy, you have to work with your enemy. Then he becomes your partner. Good evening to you, Bisong, and thank you for contributing. Good evening, Mr. Liu and panelists in the studio. After vaccine, what next? Should people pick up their guns or how? UN are not serious. Auntie Marie writing from Kumba. Good evening to you. Esther watching from Yaoundé, and to you, Esther, also watching from Kumba. Hi, Mr. Liu. Good evening to you guys in the studio. COVID-19 offers us a great opportunity for individual and collective recession. It is time to go back to the drawing board and rewrite the next phase of our existence. The upcoming generation has to read about how we fought this pandemic with or without vaccines in order to overcome similar situations during their times. Clarion Teves writing from the United Arab Emirates, Abu Dhabi. Now, Honorable Joshua Osei is not alone. Member of Parliament who signed the petition to the congressmen and women out there in the United States of America. Is he particularly targeted or Why the fuse about him?
Yeah, Mr. Liu, it's hard to believe that among 62 parliamentarians who appended their signatures, Joshua Osei is singled out. And what is even hard to believe is that it's from somebody within the party. And this is somebody that recently, Nitcheu has been making a lot of headline news recently. We remember that when the government went for a loan of 55 billion francs CFA, Nitcheu was that parliamentarian who wrote a letter saying that government should explain. And for him, again, today come to attack his own, because Joshua Osei, I think so far as the organigram of the Social Democratic Front is concerned, is the second personality after Njock. Now, I believe that that is something that he would have raised within the party, okay? Maybe he's called Joshua Osei, who is far from being the head as the SDF is concerned. He's also a colleague of his, because they're also parliamentarians, and parliamentarians of Ndwala. But if he comes out and singles out his own colleague, because, Mr. Liu, this is a topic that I believe last week Thursday we did discuss the same topic here. But now progressively the names are coming out.
Yeah, but Jean was accusing almost everybody, because if you go through it, he is insisting that he will not understand why MPs are quick to petition the U.S. Congress, men and women, and will not insist that they put it as an agenda for discussion during the session.
Why has he not put it for the years back? He's a parliamentarian. He should have put it. We're expecting that Nitcheu should have raised the Anglophone crisis at the National Assembly, the way Honorable Joseph Weber did some years back. He's a parliamentarian, has never made mention. I just believe that, Mr. Liu, I've had the opportunity, even Metropole Paris is a friend, within the Social Democratic Front, as of now, and I'm not a member within the party, but there is this infighting that is ongoing. There is this division. If you want to do more investigation on it, you're going to discover that there is this division that is ongoing within the political party, and there's this group of persons who are backing Nitcheu, that's the West, and there are those who are also standing with Joshua Osei. But I think that the bone of contention here is the fact that why target Joshua Osei? Because there are 62 of them. And I listened to Joshua Osei today on a sister radio station, and he was saying that people have misinterpreted. I did listen to him. That people have misinterpreted what the parliamentarians actually had on their minds. But I believe that last week I said here that if parliamentarians should be writing the U.S., why not raise it? 62 parliamentarians out of 180 parliamentarians is a good number to put the Anglophone crisis at the parliament. If 62 parliamentarians stand up at the National Assembly and say, okay, we believe, Mr. Speaker, that the killings in the Northwest and the Southwest are so many. We believe that people have been displaced so many. And that, Mr. Speaker, it is time to look into the Anglophone problem. We saw the impact that one individual called Honorable Weber created at the National Assembly. He took the National Assembly hostage, told the Speaker, even if you think that I should not give my opinion, then bring the brutal gendarmes to come and arrest me here. One person out of 180 created an impact. If 69 parliamentarians, 62, sorry, thank you, Bar. If 62 out of 180, amongst them, the vice president of a political party, the leading political party in the Northwest and the Southwest, the Social Democratic Front, if they could, at the level of the National Assembly, take the National Assembly hostage and say, okay, the Anglophone problem, Mr. Speaker. I'm even taken aback that Honorable Joshua Osei was amongst them, because this is somebody that lost elections even in his own village, where he's coming from. Because in the Northwest and the Southwest region, the SDF has just Bamenda 3 Council. And that Joshua Osei, where he's coming from, the SDF did not stand tall. And I want to believe that if he went as a parliamentary candidate in his own area, not in Douala, where he has been parliamentarian for so many years, the SDF lost the East, but normal that he would have lost. But now maybe because he is not part of that area and does not run for elections in that area, what happens there means less to him. So I just believe that, Mr. Liu, the parliamentarians, 62 of them, they have their reasons why they wrote. that the UN should stop meddling. But why should they not come up in the National Assembly? The June session kicks off in a few days.
No, March.
Oh, they didn't March. The March session, thank you. In some few days. And we're expecting that the 62 parliamentarians, amongst them, Joshua Osi, they should bring up the Anglophone problem at the National Assembly. They should be able to tell Kavayege Jibril, Mr. President, people are dying in the Northwest and the Southwest. They should be able to lobby so that their colleagues can see reasons, so much such that the killings in the Northwest should end. We cannot authoritatively here say that schools are effective in the Northwest and the Southwest. It is very true that in certain areas they collect children and put them under an area. I give you the example of Donga Mountain, for instance. All children around Kambe, all are gathered and they study in GBHS Kambe. But before the crisis in 2016, people were going to schools in their different communities. I believe that the Anglophone crisis is, even if it were a child, that child has already been creeping until the child is moving already. 5 years is not 1 month. 5 years is not 5 months. This child is already mature enough. The name of the child is already known. Let this child be tabled at the National Assembly and let the lawmakers really know that something is happening. Instead of going there every day like Honorable Joseph Weber said some other time, that instead of budget,
Tamfu
we should
Jones,
talk about the
Tamfu Jones, do you understand why Cameroonians are not too comfortable with the lesson-giving posture that is taken by Cameroon MPs towards their colleagues in the United States of America, when Cameroonians say that we expect you people to discuss these issues in the National Assembly and not necessarily giving lessons to others who seemingly are more concerned for the people of the Southwest and Northwest regions than you?
This incident has just come to expose one of our weaknesses. This just shows clearly that because before we could think that the guys in the National Assembly are ignorant of what is going on. If not ignorance of what is going on, how will you put it together that in a country faced with crisis for 3 years, the National Assembly of that same country says nothing, I'm saying 3, not even 4, says nothing about it. So when this comes, when they start writing to counter what the US congressmen have written, it just shows that the parliament has taken one side, has taken the side of the government against the population. If they were the representatives of the Cameroonian population, I think it is time that the MP of the Ocean Division should say that I have prostitutes in my division who are IDPs from the Northwest and the Southwest, and I have thieves who are from the Northwest and the Southwest who are bringing terror and disorder in my division because of this war. I have people who are unable to eat in my division because of this war, because I can bet with you that there's no division in this country that has an IDP. No. They are everywhere. And the suffering is too much. Which means that all these MP, either directly or indirectly, know the suffering of this population. But because all they're interested in is defending budget, they go there, sit, and defend the budget. And whoa! We tell you, if you should bite the finger that fits you, the budgets come from where? Who? The government. So if you should say something that maybe the government would not be for, maybe the budget may witness a glissement, and their pocket will be empty. If not, how will you tell me that people who go to represent their population are unable to tell the man who should carry that basket of what they discussed there to the next person, to tell the person that look at what these people are asking for? Are unable to tell the man of the National Assembly or discuss among them, their peers, that we of Banso of Kumbu, we are suffering. We of Kambe, we are suffering. People are dying. People are in the bushes. Then who do you go there for? If the parliament is unable to discuss things that concern Cameroonians, I think should be dissolved. let there be no parliament. Because it was meant for discussion of things that matter in this country, to bring solutions to this country. The parliament is not saying anything about it. The Senate is not saying anything about it. And all of a sudden, because the U.S. Congress said something.
Are you saying that you found virtually nothing important in the petition that was signed by 62 MPs?
What is important? So they were there, they knew that there was a war going on in the north and the south. And they discussed nothing about it.
Better late than never now.
Better late. Better late. If they start saying that the countries or the US, which is somehow asking for whatsoever, should repatriate those they think are funding the war, it means that they have taken side of the part of the government. That these people who are in the US who think otherwise are terrorists, and that they should be brought to Cameroon so that they should be lashed. We see no sign of forgiveness or amnesty when they come here. Because it is true that we have the TTR centers that have been constructed by the government. It is true that there are people there who are said to have dropped their guns, their weapons. But the question that I keep asking myself is that if it is true that those are the TTRs, those who have dropped their guns, why is it that we still have people who are in prison up to date, who are involved with this same issue of this Anglophone crisis, who are either were arrested because they marched or because they did not have ID cards and they are yet in prison today, and those who had guns and shot and military are pampered in DDR centers. Okay. So I think that the MPs are just demonstrating to us that they are not for the people but for the government.
Ok, Christian Njock, je ne sais pas si vous suivez ce qui se passe. Est-ce que vous comprenez la posture qui est prise par les députés camerounais vis-à-vis les collègues des États-Unis?
Effectivement, je voudrais avoir une autre lecture, autre que celle de Prince et Jones ici sur le plateau, pour leur dire effectivement que moi j'ai vu à travers ces un tiers des députés qui se sont réunis, n'est-ce pas, une action de lobbying parlementaire, voyez-vous, parce qu'on a l'impression que le Parlement camerounais, lui, l'est bloqué. Il ne répond qu'à l'aune, n'est-ce pas, du président de la République. Peut-être à travers, n'est-ce pas, cette solidarité parlementaire qui pourrait impacter à travers le lobbying international, pourrait, n'est-ce pas, avoir un effet, si tant est que les Nations Unies ou le Parlement américain ont, n'est-ce pas, un impact. Cela permettrait naturellement à solutionner. Donc on ne doit pas tout de go rejeter effectivement ce qui a été fait, même si la posture de l'honorable Jean-Michel Nitcheu, on la comprend effectivement. On est dans, première des choses, on est dans des guerres de succession au sein du SIF. C'est connu de tout le monde qu'il y a une bagarre entre l'honorable Joshua aussi et Jean-Michel Nitcheu. Tout le monde connaît effectivement que Jean-Michel Nitcheu est la voix d'un parti extrémiste au sein de ce Parlement. Tout le monde connaît effectivement que Nitcheu est en coaction avec ces gars de la basse et autres qui sont à l'extérieur, notamment son petit frère qui est un des porte-voix de la basse, le général Brice Nitcheu. Donc ne soyons pas surpris, on l'a vu se filmer dernièrement avec des gens qui demandent à couper les têtes au Cameroun. Donc il faut comprendre la logique dans laquelle il s'inscrit. Donc peut-être...
Est-ce que les membres du PCRN ont aussi signé?
Non, permettez. Maintenant j'en viens. Notre posture au Parti Cameroun pour la réconciliation nationale est de dire à ces gens, effectivement, c'est une approche purement d'action patriotique. Tiens, notre approche est de leur dire, si on peut en arriver, c'est là où je rejoins Prince, c'est ça notre position, que si on peut en arriver à faire un tiers qui demande à faire, pourquoi n'est pas donc inscrit cette question à l'ordre du jour enfin? C'est ça au niveau de l'Assemblée nationale, c'est ça notre position. C'est là où l'honorable président Kabal Libya a dit, commençons déjà par nous-mêmes. Si on signe la pétition pour dire, on l'inscrit au Parlement camerounais et on demande au Parlement des autres qui se sont prononcés, d'accord, pas seulement qu'on commence ailleurs et laisser nous-mêmes. Donc nous on est partisans effectivement de signer cette pétition quitte à ce qu'on inscrive enfin la question au Parlement. J'ai vu en 2018 l'honorable Wirba, j'ai vu les députés du SIF, que je vais saluer ici, monopoliser le Parlement. Je me souviens encore de cette chanson de Wirba qui chantait How many people? Voilà. Donc c'était vraiment une action parlementaire assez forte. Et le gouvernement camerounais, comme d'habitude, a fait la sourde oreille. C'est peut-être pour ça, à partir de là, vous pouvez peut-être comprendre l'action de ces autres députés qui se disent, peut-être, allons chercher ailleurs où il y a notre pan de pouvoir qui peut impacter effectivement sur la résolution de la crise. Donc, il peut avoir des conséquences positives derrière l'action qui a été menée. Et nous, au niveau du Parti camerounais pour la réconciliation nationale, et là je vous parle ex-qualité comme son porte-parole, nous on a dit on va signer ça, mais seulement on va signer à condition que la première pétition soit déposée sur la table du Parlement en mars prochain. Et l'honorable président Kabalibi va porter la question en mars dans quelques jours. Ça commence le 12. Vous allez voir ce qui va effectivement se passer. Donc, nous, on a compris pourquoi on veut tirer sur l'honorable aussi. Donc, il faut que l'honorable Nitcheu comprenne effectivement que quand on est dans une équipe, il faut arrêter la sorcellerie. Vraiment, à chaque fois, le fait toujours.
C'est la démocratie.
Permettez qu'on y va. Ça n'a rien à voir avec la démocratie. Il y a des questions transpartisanes. Il y a des questions sur lesquelles on ne se blague pas. Surtout des questions qui touchent l'intégrité, la souveraineté du territoire. Donc vraiment, à un moment donné, on ne s'amuse pas avec.
Non. Il y a aussi les disputes chez vous. Hein. Votre président a demandé que vous n'allez pas aux élections, mais toi, tu n'étais pas d'accord.
Voilà. Je n'étais pas d'accord. Je vais dire que
un parti politique n'est pas un bien privé.
Alors,
ce que je vais vous dire, c'est que quoi? Dans le parti qui est appelé LDF, n'est-ce pas? Parce que chez toi, si tu as les problèmes avec ta femme, in our homes.
We don't have time, please. We don't have time, please.
I know.
At least you and your president were not on the same.
We must disagree to agree.
So the SDF, they will disagree to agree.
That's what I said is democracy.
Okay, Doctor, now he is raising an issue that this is the time for MPs to start mobilizing to make sure that this issue of the Anglophone crisis is also included in the agenda for the March session. Should we see intensive lobbying taking place across party lines now?
No, I don't even see that coming.
Okay.
I think that the 62 MPs, what I read from their response, because I made an analysis of the 2 letters, that of the senators in the US and that which they wrote, you see that they are out to defend the state and not the suffering people. When you read from their letters there, you see that they are out for a mission, a diabolical mission. They are out to support the killing in the North and South region. Permit me to say that. Yes, that is what is out to happen. Because when you look at the letters that the senators wrote, let me remind you, if you read that letter, you understand that these are people who have a mastery of things. Yes. Because they started their letters by making a panoramic view of what has happened in Cameroon before finally they came to a conclusion.
No, the MPs. No. Let me make a correction. The MPs wrote to Congress members who wrote to the Joe Biden administration to block the deportation of the recent. They cannot write to the Senate. Senators write to senators out there. They wrote to members of Congress in the United States.
Whatever they think the case, let us look at the letter they wrote, which had a lot of meaning. Now, when you come to what the Cameroon MPs they wrote, from what they wrote, you realize that they were out to defend a particular mission. I mean, and that's that mission of what we call la politique du ventre. You know, that is what happened. Now listen, we talked about 2017, 2018, when these very parliamentarians were in session in Yaoundé. Yes. We look at people like Joshua Osi, who was one of those people who were holding the Vuvuzela and shouting. I remember he even talked about some journalists, and he was lambasting and saying how they are running away from the circle because they didn't want to hear the truth from the SDF. I mean, and it is a very person today who will side up with those people who have refused vehemently to recognize that there is an issue about the suffering masses in the North and South region. I think this is hypocrisy. Those people of us who want to support Joshua I.C. is because we do not know him. This is the bad gene in the SDF. Joshua I.C. is the bad gene in the SDF. This is a man who has been supported by the CPDM to destabilize the party SDF. I'm talking here and this. Maybe he doesn't know the in and out of it. Now let me finish. You will come in. Of course, you will come in. I am saying that this. Yeah, of course, I am an observer. I am an observer of the and I know what is happening. Yeah, I know what. When somebody says that a person like Jean-Michel Nitcheu is going too far, it is because he is striking the point where he should be stricken, and that is just the fact about the SDF today. Now, look at Joshua. See, he is now being, he is aiming for the post of the national president. And I know most of the majority of people in the SDF do not want you to come because the party is going to go to extinction if Joshua C climbs up at the helm of that party today. And that is a fact. Now, these are, let me tell you, these are parliamentarians who have refused to accept that they are IDPs in Cameroon, who have refused to accept that they are refugees, Cameroon refugees who are in Nigeria, who have refused to accept that there are about thousands of people who have died in the Anglophone crisis, and in their letter, all they are saying is that Cameroonians, they are at peace and that nobody should interfere with the affairs of Cameroon. Yeah, it is true. Nobody should interfere. But then, if they have the concern of Cameroon, I think that they should be reasonable. Joshua C, though, is not even considered as an Anglophone MP because he stood in his own constituency, the Southwest, 2 terms, and he didn't go through. I mean, this is his second mandate in Douala. If you don't know, this is his second mandate. And do you know who put him in the second mandate of Cameroon? That's the friend of Frank Biya. That's the classmate of Frank Biya. That is the classmate of Frank Biya. I mean, he's the friend of the government. This is the man who arranges for the head of... Listen, this is the man who arranges for the head of state visit in Europe. Do you know that? This is the man who goes on arrangement or flight arrangement for head of state in Europe. You know that? There are a lot of truth that you need to know. So this is... Joshua is not for the Anglophone cause. Joshua is for the continuous marginalization of the Anglophones in Cameroon. Yes.
Il n'y a que les imbéciles qui ne changent pas. Si aujourd'hui, votre problème c'est que il y a une faction des députés RDPC qui change. Vous voulez que on dit il n'y a que les imbéciles qui ne changent pas. S'ils se sont rendus compte que ces tueries montent et ils se retournent et ils font quelque chose, ce qu'ils ont posé comme acte, c'est positif pour la cause anglophone.
I don't want us
et
to
vous
bet.
dites aujourd'hui que
I don't want to bet and nothing but discuss the national assembly on that.
Ils ont dit ils ne seront pas.
Defending the state.
Il a bien
fait.
C'est un lobby.
Mr. Michael. I didn't finish, but he's passionate about his party. So we who are the observers, we know exactly what is happening in SDF. I want to come here to say another parliamentarian. I mean, he's a terrorist and he's a bad and all of that. Those are the things that we don't want to do.
Doctor, please, we have 3 more minutes. Allez-y.
Ouais, je disais que vraiment, dit aujourd'hui que si, peut-être votre mal, c'est parce que les députés RDPC ont changé d'avis et peuvent aujourd'hui regarder la cause. C'est ça qui vous fait mal? On verra, mais ça va être inscrit à l'ordre du jour, d'un mois à l'autre. Ça se fera. C'est un lobbying qui se fait. Et quand la cause est là, on se rend compte que tout le temps ça passe. Le SDF a bien boycotté une séance parlementaire. Mais si aujourd'hui, il y a des gens du RDPC qui sont prêts à pouvoir dire que regardons un peu la cause, c'est un bon début. Applaudissons cela et on évolue.
Okay, we hope that we are going to be receiving Honorable Joshua C on My Media Prime. We hope he accepts to come so that we can ask him, let him talk for himself. We should not talk for him. Good evening to all of you in the studio. The Cameroon MPs are just there to criticize the U.S. Congress. They are not there to represent the Cameroon people. Johnson is writing from Limbe. Stop calling. Good evening. I like your words. Emil is writing from Kumbu. This one says, maybe Honorable Joshua Osei did not read the document. He just signed it. Okay. Okay. Good day, Mr. Liu. I'm from Kumba. My name is Tambe. Good evening to you, Tambe. This one says the audio is not the best. Chika writing from Bamenda says thanks for the audio rectification. Okay, Chika, we're glad I came back. Madam Ewi Elizabeth, writing from, says, when people lost confidence in its leadership, nothing else can change the mindset, the adage that the shoulder can't go above the head therefore should take its responsibility. If those people don't have and know how to respect rules and regulations as well as implementation of the matters, then you cease to exist. Please, sir, have an interview with K. Iron Lady, good evening to you. Mr. Kum, point of correction, you can't say that Cameroon MP are co-list to American MPs. We have MPs without any vote of confidence. Yes, but they are MPs. Good evening. Does the MP need to tell the speaker? Is he not aware? Please, only God will judge us. KUNEH is Israel. Writing from Du. This one says, let the Cameroon parliamentarians stay quiet. The war was declared on the Anglophones by the executive arm of government without their consent, so they are not competent to talk about the war. Let the executive arm of government respond to the U.S. Senate. Pa John is writing from Limbe. Hello, please, Prime Media. This is Tete Bernard. Give my number to Mr. Tamfu or send me his number. Can you just request it after the program? Good evening, Mr. Liu. I am Frederick from Libya. What we need is that you to take a decision. The UN should take a decision and end up this war because we are going on pains and people are losing their families. Thanks, okay? Hello, Mr. Liu. I'm Edward from Bamenda. The UN can call on Cameroon to cease hostilities. Good evening, Mr. Liu. The UN wants to disguise behind COVID and rectify the problem. Greetings to you guys in the studio. I'm Eric, writing from Bamenda. Okay. Are we sure the vaccine that will be administered in the Western world is what we are going to receive here? Good evening, Mr. Liu. Low voltage will not allow us watch the program. Pascal, writing from Iran. Mr. Liu, the problem in our country is that the government has declared a war, okay? Mr. Liu, I don't think the so-called UN Security Council is serious. Good evening, Mr. Liu and everyone in the panel. My problem is that the government is not serious. Hi, I am Edwin, writing from Bamenda. UN is Russia, France, Britain, and China. Okay, we have to end here at the time is calling us to leave the studio. We want to thank you for coming, Prince.
Mr. Liu, it's a privilege I have here today. I believe that the March session is not far. We're calling on all parliamentarians that as they enter the National Assembly, they should not forget that the Anglophone problem is real. Like I said before now, 5 years is not 5 months. Even if it were a baby, that baby is mature enough. Special good evening to the peace-loving people of Mr. G Subdivision, to Honorable Ngala Gerard, and to Dr. Fukalisus Gentry.
Okay. Thank you for coming. Mr. Eji from MODECNA.
Yes, it's a pleasure, and I will say a special good evening to Honorable Ngala Gerard. And we hope a firebrand young man, and I will hope that when this session will hold, he will show himself as a youth of that part of the nation. And we say good evening to the Fukalistus and the other ministers and government officials who are doing their job well, because it's not all that are from fully. So good evening to all the Cameroonians who watch us today.
Greetings, Mr. Liu. Please, coronavirus is real, but not as dangerous as the countries of the West puts it. The problem with the aspect of vaccine that is raising a lot of doubt is why is the African therapy, which has proven far more successful, not considered? How can we accept vaccines from people who have predicted millions of dying? Mr. Liu, how are we sure the content of the vaccine is okay? Tiku Felix, writing from Boya. Thank you for coming, Doctor.
Thanks so much. It's a pleasure. I think we make it a date after the mass session of Parliament. I would really very much love to see what is happening, so that we'll be able to actually make concrete arguments and actually projections on what is going to happen. I think that is going to actually clarify us on who loves Cameroon. And of course, I would not like, I've heard people, two people, colleagues here, greet Ngala I think that no day when Gala signed that kind of a document.
Yes,
I think. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, we equally want to thank you, Barrister Payere, for coming.
Ouais, bonsoir aux téléspectateurs, bonsoir aux panélistes. Ça a été très chaud. Et je crois que c'est pour des thèmes étaient très choisis sur le volet. Et surtout, quand nous débattons, il y a une réalité, le Covid est là. Mais la question anglophone est pire que le Covid. Et je crois, comme on l'a dit ces jours-ci, le lobbying va faire que la question anglophone soit placée sur la table de l'Assemblée nationale et du Sénat pour qu'on puisse débattre et qu'on puisse trouver des solutions.
Okay, and thank you to you, Christian Njock, for coming.
Merci Mr. Kum, merci aux co-panélistes. Et tout le plaisir était le mien d'être ici une fois de plus. Je voudrais saluer nos camarades de Meganga qui ont vu notre tête de liste au régional disparaître depuis un mois. Il est porté disparu aujourd'hui. Que vivement les populations de ce côté-là, il paraît que les rafts ont recommencé dans la région de la Damawa. Au quotidien également, les populations disparaissent vraiment avec la crise Onozo, avec Boko Haram dans l'extrême nord, avec encore ce autre pôle. Vraiment, il faut que le gouvernement prenne des mesures enfin pour que cela puisse s'amenuiser jusqu'ici. Et quitte à ce qu'on puisse définitivement trouver des solutions à la crise anglophone, même si nous, au niveau du Parti camerounais pour la réconciliation nationale, nous croyons que ce contentieux hystérique repose sur la forme de l'État et nous proposons le fédéralisme communautaire pour tuer définitivement cette crise anglophone.
Okay, I want to thank you, Desmond and Eli, for producing the program, not forgetting Bertrand and Noel. We want to say we thank you all who took time off to watch the program from across the nation and beyond. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.